A disturbing trend across the country is not letting up. COVID cases are rising, and the unvaccinated account for nearly all hospitalizations and deaths, which is why new masking guidelines are being considered, even for fully vaccinated Americans, which make up just over 45% of the U.S. population, according to CDC data. Here's Dr. Fauci earlier today.
Do you think masks should be brought back for vaccinated Americans?
You know, Jake, this is under active consideration. If you're asking, am I part of the discussion? Yes, I am part of the discussion.
Monday, St. Louis joins places like Los Angeles County in requiring masks indoors. New York City's mayor is mandating public hospital employees be vaccinated or submit to weekly testing and urging private businesses in the city to require workers be vaccinated, signaling he may introduce vaccination mandates for hundreds of thousands of municipal employees. These efforts and campaigns, yes, are about stopping the spread of COVID and its Delta variant. But it's also about something else, which Dr. Fauci explained earlier on MSNBC.
If you allow the virus to freely circulate because so many people are unvaccinated, you give it yet again another opportunity to mutate even more, and you may wind up with creating a variant that in fact eludes the protection of the vaccine.
New York Times reporting Biden officials increasingly expect vulnerable populations will need a booster shot as research continues into the longevity of COVID vaccines. A number of those vulnerable populations where cases, hospitalizations, and deaths are rising, Republican strongholds, which may explain why there is a noticeable difference in how Republicans are talking about vaccines.
I would encourage people to get the vaccine. I have high confidence in it. I got it myself.
Government has a role to play in encouraging people to get vaccinated. I've done that consistently from the very beginning. I think everyone who's eligible should be vaccinated.
These vaccines are saving lives. They are reducing mortality.
These shots need to get in everybody's arm as rapidly as possible.
Dr. Fauci says he wants to see more.
What I would really like to see is more and more of the leaders in those areas that are not vaccinating to get out and speak out and encourage people to get vaccinated. I was very heartened to hear people like Steve Scalise come out and say, hey, we need to get vaccinated. Even Governor DeSantis right now in Florida is saying the same thing.
Is it possible for the GOP to remove the very doubt they helped create? As my next guest argues in Slate, incubating, amplifying, and polishing lies is now the full-time occupation of much of the GOP. Faced with the choice between governing and lying, they have decided to be purveyors of fiction. With me now, Dahlia Lithwick, senior editor and legal correspondent for Slate and host of the Amicus podcast. Dahlia, always good to see you. There are still Republicans stoking fears and mistrust over these vaccines. While we see this push from, some Republicans urging people to get shots in arms, as the New Yorker puts it, quote, these statements were not a coincidence. They were a coordinated political retreat. And no wonder. The new politics of the pandemic are following the alarming new math of the pandemic. That math being upticks in red states. What do you make of this about face, Dahlia?
I think you've exactly nailed the problem. And the problem is that if the end product is lies, and the end product has been lies for such a long time, the end product about the results of the election was lies, and the end product about the vaccine was lies. Suddenly, when the rubber hits the road and people believe the lies, and in fact, the daily act of governance is promoting and spreading and amplifying the lies, you have existential problems that result from that. And we saw that was January 6th, right? When people came together and absolutely wrap themselves in lies. That's the problem we're seeing now with the vaccines, where people are saying, given that truth is unknowable, I guess I'll just believe the last thing I read on Facebook. And this utter lack of trust in a government that has sent such profoundly conflicting messages means that now folks really feel like, why would I listen to what the government says at all? I'll just listen to my mother-in-law.
Right. And when you zoom out, when we look at Trump, you write about how his lies about something seemingly ridiculous, like crowd size, for example, would lead to his boosters giving life to his lies. Experts in authoritarianism were warning that this type of manipulation was how strongmen cling to power. Sure. But it seemed easy enough to push it away and assume that once he was no longer president, the persistent flattery and adjusting of reality for his benefit would stop. But it's now clear that the falsehood itself is the end game. Why is this something that has exceeded Trump's time in office, that has actually overtaken his party?
That to me, Alicia, is the question, is that I think we all believe if we could put to rest the fabrications and fictions around the 22 election, put to rest the silly lies, the trivial lies about crowd size and changing weather maps, and all that seems so utterly silly. If we could put that aside, maybe we could come together on some kind of shared facticity when Trump was gone. And I think what I was really trying to flag in that article is that Trump, it seems, was not the problem. The lies were the problem. And removing Trump from the picture, if you have a GOP that is still functionally purveying those lies day in and day out, still saying, oh, those were just tourists at the Capitol on January 6th. Those were patriots. They weren't violent. Or, oh, COVID is in no way different from the flu. Then Trump was never the problem. And we make a mistake when we say post-Trump, we have no problem. We have a bigger problem, I think, and it's post-truth.